Hello, this is Caelan Huntress in the March Masterclass for how to get more referrals and testimonials with great questions. We're going to jump right in, and I'm going to let you know that 83% of consumers are willing to refer business after a positive experience. But according to Texas Tech University, only 29% of consumers actually refer. That's a big difference. That's 50% of customers would be willing to give a referral, but they don't. And the biggest reason why is because they're never asked. So what I want to help you do today is to work in these questions into your standard process so that you can ask for referrals and testimonials more easily and authentically. The questions that we ask dictate the kinds of results that we get in our life. And if you don't ask for what you want, you're never going to get it. The customers that really like doing business with you, the ones that are willing to refer you business, they rarely go out of their way to do it proactively. But if you ask good questions, they'd be willing to do it for you much more frequently. So you're in the right place right now if you own your own business, or if you are helping somebody else sell their products and services as a marketer, or if you're a freelancer. If it's up to you to sell your own services or your own products, then you're going to really find a lot of value in the things that we're talking about today. If you already have a good client base, and you already have a good reputation, and you already have a website and an email list, then you're really going to like the things that we talk about today. If you don't have these yet, you're welcome to stay. I'm sure you're going to find some things that you can learn, but the techniques that we're going to go over might be a little too advanced. So just fair warning that these are the people that this training is made for. People who want a shorter journey from stranger to customer. People who want better clients that are ready to hire you right away. And people that want a high quality reputation that precedes you. I'm going to give you the questions to position yourself this way. And here's the agenda of how we're going to do it. I'm going to share with you the 2 most profitable questions you can ask in your business. I'll give you some techniques for overcoming anxiety when asking for referrals. We'll talk about how much more valuable referral-based customers are than regular customers. I'll give you some little-known secrets that make it really easy to collect testimonials. And I'll also provide you with calling scripts, interview questions, and step-by-step action plans. In the bonus that I'm going to be giving everybody who stays till the end of this masterclass, my testimonial interview workbook. This has a step-by-step process for going out and harvesting testimonials from your network. Now, if you're watching this on the replay, there should be a button somewhere around here that has this workbook on it. But if you're here live, I'm going to give you this workbook right at the end of this presentation, okay? Now, a lot of us know this cycle that buyers go through. First, they have to know you. Then they have to like you. Then they have to trust you. And after that, they will buy from you. If you're on this masterclass, you've likely already taken people through this cycle many times. But the interesting thing about this cycle is that it's a circle and it repeats. If you upsell or cross-sell a customer into buying something new, they need to know about this new offer. They need to like this new offer. They need to trust that they're going to get results, and then they're going to buy with this new upgraded offer. And it's the same with referrals and testimonials. They need to know that this is what you're looking for. They need to like your approach in asking them. They need to trust that their good name and reputation is going to be protected if they let you borrow it. And then they'll buy in. Then they'll give you what you're asking for, but you have to ask. I like to think of this like feeding wild animals. If you come on too strong, they'll just fly away. But if you offer gently what it is that you want to achieve, and you let them come closer and check it out, and let them trust you and see that you are trustworthy, then they'll come to you slowly. But it's a process. It's not something that you can just blanket your email list with. Hey, I'm looking for referrals. People aren't going to pay attention. They're not going to vibe with that. But if you let them know gently and you guide them step by step into this close, intimate relationship of sharing their network with you, you've got to do it gently. And I'm going to give you some practical techniques on how to do that, so that by the end of this masterclass, you'll know just what to do when it's time to ask for a referral, and you'll be able to feel confident when you ask. So now we're going to talk about the 2 most profitable questions you can ask in your business. If you get in the habit of asking these questions, these 2 questions will make you more money than anything else you can ask. You ready? Will you refer me a new client? And will you give me a testimonial? That's it. There's not a secret formula here. These are the most profitable questions you can ask, and they're simple. The way that you ask it and the way that you phrase it might vary, but asking these questions is going to increase your reputation and get you more of the better kinds of clients. Statistics show that customers that come to you by referral, on average, have a 16% higher lifetime customer value. It means that they're more likely to buy from you. They're less likely to leave. It's easier to close them. Having a customer come to you through referral doesn't need all the validation as a stranger off the street, because they heard from somebody that they trust that you were the person to talk to. So if referral customers are statistically so much better than customers that come to us through other means, why don't we ask everybody all the time? Well, I think there's a few reasons why. And the first reason is we don't want to make our customers uncomfortable. They've put all this trust into us. They've invested in us. They've been paying us money. And if we show up with a really cheesy, canned question that makes them feel uncomfortable, that threatens our livelihood. That can make it less likely that they're going to buy from us in the future. So not making customers uncomfortable, this is really important. We don't want to threaten our relationship with them. The second reason we don't ask for referrals is we don't always know what to say. We don't know how to ask in a way that's authentic, that's in harmony with our brand and our values, and in a way that doesn't threaten our relationship. The third reason we don't ask is because we don't want to look like a cheesy salesperson. I'm going to go ahead and guess that all of us on this masterclass, we didn't get into our businesses to be salespeople. But sales is this essential function of what it is we do. In addition to sales, you've got this craft, this expertise, and that's what you want to be promoting. And that's where you want to be engaging with your energy, but you also have to spend this time selling. And if it doesn't feel in harmony with who you are and what you do, then every time you do it, you could be worried about how you look to everybody that you're talking to. But the biggest reason is that when you ask somebody for a referral or a testimonial, if they say no, it's a judgment on us. Or at least it feels that way. If you ask somebody, hey, will you open up your black book and give me a name of somebody who could use my business? And they say, no, I won't do it. That's like saying, no, we are not worth it. And it's scary to come up against this opportunity for rejection. So the easiest thing to do is just avoid it and not bother asking the question. So these are the 4 biggest problems I see in asking for referrals and testimonials. And what I'd like you to do is go over to the chat window and type in a number for one of these 4. Which one do you fear the most? Which one prevents you from asking for referrals and testimonials? And just go ahead and type a number in the chat box. If it's number 1, type number 1. If it's number 2, type 2. Great. Okay, I'm trying to pull up the chat here. Hang on. All right, I've got to stop sharing for a moment so I can pull up my chat window. All right, Eric says it's number 4. Lindsay says number 3, don't want to seem salesy. Vince says number 4. Jason says number 1. Lots of number 1s. Don't want to make people uncomfortable. Yeah, Lori agrees, number 1. These are the common problems that we face. And this is a problem that I faced early in my career. Before I got into digital media and web design, I sold car insurance. And it was just as boring as it sounds. Now, the good thing about this job that I had just had my first child. I went into corporate America and said, I'll try this wearing a tie, having a career thing. And I worked for a Fortune 100 company for 3 years. And the biggest advantage I had was they gave me this incredible sales training. They flew me out to Florida for a week to work with one of their sales trainers, and there was all of this ongoing education. And so I took it on like a study. And I decided I was going to be a great salesperson and really learn this craft of selling. And one of the first things they said is go out to your network and talk to everybody you know and tell them about what you're doing and ask for referrals. And so I did that. And I called everybody I knew, and I had a bunch of coffees and a bunch of phone calls. And I said, hey, I'm selling car insurance and I'm looking for licensed drivers in the state of Oregon. Who do you know that can use car insurance? And as you can imagine, I burned my network pretty fast. People stopped taking my calls because I made 3 big mistakes. The first mistake was I asked for a referral before I provided any value. That was the reason for my call, is I was calling and asking for a name and number. I don't know if you remember the Sprint friends and family debacle that happened, gosh, it must have been 10 years ago now, where they had this program where you could, you basically gave your phone numbers of friends and family so that they would get this discounted long distance plan. And then their sales reps would call and annoy all these people. And it was devastating for networks because people would share the contact information of their friends and family, of people that they trusted and that they loved. And then they were getting sales calls. And it was horrendous. Like all of these personal networks were damaged by this campaign. And it's out of fear of that kind of damage happening to their network that people hold back and they don't want to give referrals. The second big mistake that I made is I went to people who had done work with me in the past because I was just starting out and I needed some testimonials. And I said, hey, will you write me a testimonial? Will you volunteer some time to promote my business? And as you can expect, I didn't get a lot of results with just calling people and asking them to help me out on a volunteer basis. The third mistake I made, and this was really the big one, is that the questions that I asked didn't rise up naturally out of the conversation we were having. They were stilted. They were phony. They were obvious attempts for me to get something without giving anything first. And so what I want to do today is I want to give you some techniques for avoiding these mistakes. Now, I learned some ways around these mistakes, both by trial by fire, and I got better at selling car insurance. But then I got out of that career and I started getting into web design, something that I liked a lot more. And while I was doing that, I realized there was a specific cue that I could wait for. I didn't have to call people up and have an uncomfortable conversation where I was trying to manipulate our discussion into me asking for business. Instead, I had to wait for a cue. When somebody says, wow, and thank you, that's my cue. Whenever there's a combination or a variation of these 2 words, wow and thank you, that means that somebody is primed and ready to have this sort of discussion. And I'm going to give you 3 scripts that you can use for asking for a referral. And the first script is something you can use right after somebody says, wow, and thank you. This usually happened to me when I delivered the first draft of a website design. And I'd do it on a call and I'd give them a link and they'd go and they'd look through the website and they'd say, wow, this looks really great. Thanks so much for doing this. And then at the natural progression of the conversation, I'd say, hey, I'm so glad you like this work. I really enjoyed doing it. One of the reasons we worked so well together is that you were really frustrated by a website that didn't capture your brand and your personality. And I designed this website for you in 3 weeks so that you can promote this link out to the world and feel confident about how your website represents you. Who else do you know that is dissatisfied with their website? Do you know anybody else that wants to have a website that reflects their brand and their values? It came up naturally in the conversation because I identified the specific point in the conversation where this script could be used. Now you can screenshot this if you like. I'm going to drop these scripts into chat in just a moment. The second script I want to share with you is something that can be used for a lot of different industries. And I'll just give you an example through my website design agency. I'm looking for 2 more clients right now. People who are frustrated with their website and they want a website that'll generate leads for them automatically. Can you think of anyone off the top of your head who wants a lead generating website? See, what I'm doing here is I'm getting specific. I'm getting people to identify a type of person in their head so that they recall any conversation they've had where somebody is griping about their website, where somebody's frustrated that they're not getting the results that they want in a website. They're either going to recall somebody right there in this conversation, or they're going to have this as a bookmark. So the next time they're talking to somebody and they say, man, I'm really frustrated with my website, they'll remember, oh yeah, somebody I know was talking about this. And then they proactively refer me later. That's the power of these scripts, is not only do you get referrals in the conversation, you also plant the seeds for people to refer you in the future. And here's the third script. Small businesses like mine depend on referrals from happy clients. Would you be willing to refer my services to people that you know? That's question 1. They're going to say, well, yeah, especially if you do this right after your cue where somebody says, wow, and thank you. They'll say, yeah. And so this is the pre-qualifying question. You get them to commit that, yes, they would be willing. They're in that 83% of people that would be willing to refer you. And after you qualify that, you say, great. Now, a good referral for me is someone who owns their own business and is having problems with generating leads from their website. Who is the number 1 person in your network you could refer me to? By asking this question, you're not saying, hey, open up your LinkedIn profile and let's just go ahead through your network together. Or what kind of vague people do you know that fits these qualifications? Who is the number 1 person in your network that you could refer me to? You get them to think of one person who's the best to refer. And this brings it down out of the vague, this might happen, into a specific referral. We're going to do 1 right now. And after this 1, you could say, great, this is so awesome. Thank you so much. Who else do you know? And then be quiet. And let the silence do the selling for you. By asking for 1 person, you can build on it and get more people later, but you solidify it. So they're going to give you 1 name right now. One of the best ways to preface this is with a yes chain. And before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and drop these referral questions into chat here so that you can use these scripts later. So you can copy and paste this and modify it for yourself, however you find most useful. And now I want to talk to you about the yes chain. And the yes chain is a really good way to preface these questions. A yes chain is built on a psychological oddity in our mind. That if you ask questions that are answered yes repeatedly, people are going to be more likely to say yes. And I'll give you an example of how this psychological trick works. Everybody unmute yourself, because I'm going to ask a question and I want everybody to answer verbally. So unmute yourself and get ready to answer this question and say the first word that comes to your mind to answer this riddle. If you put a roast in a roaster, what do you put in a toaster? Nobody's off mute. Oh my gosh. Oh, you know what? We're on a webinar. You can't unmute yourself. Sorry about that. So, but if you said this out loud, you might have said toast, but you don't put toast in a toaster. You put bread in a toaster. Our minds are set to follow patterns. And so if you ask someone, if you put a roast in a roaster, what do you put in a toaster? Our brains automatically go to toast because we think we're doing this rhyming thing. And a yes chain works the same way. When somebody's hooking you into a zip line and getting you ready to jump into the unknown, they ask questions that end in yes. Does this feel good? Is it tight enough? Do you feel secure? Is your helmet on right? If you notice, they rarely ask questions that end in no. They don't often say, this isn't too tight, is it? No. You're not feeling scared, are you? No. Because if they're asking questions that end in no, when it's time for you to make the jump, you're going to be thinking no. But if they ask questions that end in yes, does this feel good? Do you feel secure? Is your helmet on good? Are you feeling ready? Yes, yes, yes. So that when you jump, it's time to say yes. And you can use a yes chain to preface your questions. Did you really like this website? Did it meet your needs? Was it what you expected? Yes, yes, yes. Would you refer me a new client? We want to build a yes chain in order to provoke a yes response. Now, these sorts of tactics can get you more confident in asking for referrals and testimonials. But they all exist under this big umbrella that you want to practice what you're going to ask and decide when you're going to ask it. If you do this in advance, you practice what to ask and decide when to ask it, then you short circuit the fight or flight mechanism. Fight or flight is something that our brain does when we're in danger. And when you are about to threaten a customer relationship, fight or flight kicks in. And it says, whoa, 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 don't do this. And so if you haven't prepared your question in advance and decided when you're going to ask it, when you're in the middle of a conversation and you realize, oh, this is the right time for me to ask for a referral, and you start trying to figure out, can I do this? How do I do this? Am I going to endanger this relationship? Is this safe? Your brain is going to shut it all down. So the way to work around this is to separate thinking and doing. These are two completely different mindsets. The way that we use our brains when we're thinking is completely different than the way that we use our minds when we're doing. When you're in the middle of a conversation, you're focused on doing. You're engaging with what the other person's saying. You're judging their responses. You're measuring them for how well is this point of the conversation landing. You're preparing to transition to what you want to say next. There's a lot of activity happening when you're in the middle of a conversation. If you stop and try and figure out, how do I ask for a referral? How do I ask this person for a testimonial? While you're in the middle of a conversation, that's when fight or flight kicks in, and you're not sure what to say. It's like the difference between an airplane at 30,000 feet and at ground level. They can both move, but they move very differently, and they have completely different perspectives. An airplane at 30,000 feet, it can see the big picture. It can plan the right way to go. But an airplane at ground level, all it can do is go to what's right in front of it. It can't deal with the bigger picture because it's just trying to move a few more feet in the right direction. And so here's how, and also there's this big difference in height. There's a switching cost. If you're at ground level and then you want to go up to 30,000 feet, then that takes time to make that commute. Shifting your mindset, taking off one cap and putting on another, it takes time. So one of the things I teach my students is when you have your thinking cap on, do your thinking. When you have your doing cap on, do the do. But don't switch rapidly back and forth between the two of them. Keep your thinking cap on when you're thinking and decide in advance what you're going to ask so that when it's time to do it, you can do it flawlessly. But the biggest piece of advice I can give you is from David Ogilvy. He said to regard the hunt for new clients as a sport. Don't get stressed about it. Play it with lighthearted gusto. You can play to win, but enjoy the fun. And that's what I want you to do when you're asking for referrals and testimonials, is enjoy the fun. If you keep it fun, then the person that you're talking with won't get uncomfortable. So let's take a closer look at the types of clients that come to you through referral. I see referral clients as one end of the spectrum and commodity clients on the other end of the spectrum. People who come to you for price because you are the cheapest. When I was selling car insurance, I was selling a commodity. I was getting people to come to me because I could save them a few bucks a month on car insurance. And what I found is that people who come to you because you're a commodity, they will leave you as soon as they find something less expensive. People who come to you through a referral, they will stay with you even if somebody else is less expensive, even if somebody else seems to have a better solution. Because a referral comes from a trusted recommendation. And there's two ways that referrals can come to you. There's solicited referrals, which is what I'm teaching you how to do today, is to solicit your network for referrals. And then there's proactive referrals. There's people who are referred to you out of the blue. You don't know where they came from, but they just said, yeah, John said that you were amazing, and so we had to talk because I need what you're selling. These are the best because they need no convincing. They are ready to work with you. And so in between these two, between referrals and commodities, there's also clients that come to you through sales and marketing. And I spend a lot of time in these worlds. You know, I see people put out requests for proposals or RFPs, and then they're selecting people based on price and how well the proposal is. And these are generally just a little bit better than commodity clients, but not much. If you're going to get people through sales, go for prospected leads, people that you proactively approach and say, hey, I can offer you a solution. The difference is prospected leads aren't already out there searching for somebody. If somebody's comparing options already, they're likely going to go with the lowest price. And it's really hard to differentiate yourself. People who come to you through marketing, in my experience, are much better. People who come to you through your network because they've known you for a while. They've been following you and learning from you and validating you over time. But the best kind of clients are repeat clients. They don't need to be convinced of what it's like working with you because they've already done it. And so this is the spectrum of the different kinds of clients that we can get. And if you want clients in any of these four categories, here's what you do. If you want more clients coming to you because of your reputation, ask questions. If you want clients to come to you through marketing, tell stories. If you want more clients from sales, make offers. And if you want more clients to come to you because you're the cheapest price, field leads. Figure out some way to get leads to come in and just field them as they come in. I hope there's nobody on this call who is a commodity, because what we want to do is work our way up this quality ladder so that we're getting more clients from the top, because those are the better kinds of clients. Those are the ones that are more likely to give you testimonials. Testimonials are super powerful. Studies have shown that 88% of people trust an online recommendation as much as a personal recommendation. The likelihood that somebody is going to go to your website and read a testimonial and accept the validity of that as much as somebody who told it to them directly in person is 88%. That's super high. That means that we don't just need to get referrals verbally from people. Capturing a testimonial and displaying it on your website adds a lot of credibility. Now, I had a great client a few years ago, and at the time, she was the highest level client that I'd ever worked with. And I knew that if I could get a testimonial from her, it would really increase my reputation. And we finished up this big 3-year project, and I asked her for a testimonial, and she said, sure, I'd be happy to do that. I'd be honored, is what she said. And I didn't hear anything. And so I emailed her a couple weeks later and I said, hey, do you remember, I'm just checking in. You said you were going to give me a testimonial. And she said, oh yeah, sure. I'll get to it. And I didn't hear anything. Weeks went by. And so I contacted her again. My imposter syndrome was kicking in. I was thinking, did she really not like all this work we did? Was I making this whole thing up? And she stopped responding to my emails. So I sat back and I looked at this from her perspective. She was an interview host. She had a nationally syndicated radio program on KPFK, and she loved talking to people, but she hated writing. It was one of the reasons that she hired me, was to write her emails and write her website copy and make her look good online. And what was I doing? I was asking her to sit down, collect her thoughts, and write a little project about what she thought about me. I was asking her to volunteer her time to support my business. And so I said, what would make this the easiest for her, for my client? How could I honor this relationship the most? And I took my example from a news reporter. You see, a news reporter doesn't sit back in the office and wait for people to come in and tell them the news. A news reporter goes out into the field and interviews people, takes a lot of notes, records a lot of footage, and then they go back and slice and dice everything they've got to make this tight, curated story. That's the work of the news reporter, is to take all of this information and create the through line, craft the story. And so that's what I did with my client. I said, hey, can we get on the phone for 10 minutes? I have a couple questions I'd like to ask you. And she loved to talk. And so we got on the phone and I interviewed her like a news reporter. I said, hey, I want to ask you some questions about the experience of working with me. I'll take a bunch of notes and record this conversation. And then I'll write up a little paragraph that'll serve as a testimonial. I'll send it over to you for review. And if you want to make any edits, then you can just edit it and reply. And if you think it looks good, give me a thumbs up and I'll use that for my testimonial. What do you think? She loved the idea and we did it right then. The testimonial I got was not only fantastic, it not only elevated my reputation and allowed me access to a whole different level of clients, it also focused on the specific things that I wanted this testimonial to highlight. She had given me a lot of great answers, but she didn't say anything specifically about website design. And I said, what was it you liked about this website? And she used this phrase that I never would have thought of. She said, it captured my personality. And it turns out that that's why a lot of people hire a website designer, is so that somebody can capture their personality. And the interview took 10 minutes. Writing the testimonial took another 10. I sent it over to her. She said, this looks great. Go ahead and use it. And suddenly I had the testimonial of a lifetime. And I used this to go and get a lot of really high quality clients over the next few years. The reason that this happened is because I wrote it using her words. I wasn't giving her homework. I was just asking her to have a conversation with me. She didn't have to volunteer her time and creativity. All she had to do was just answer my questions. When you ask somebody for a testimonial and leave the ball in their court, they might do it and they might not. But if you get somebody on the phone and you say, hey, let's have a conversation now, then it's definitely going to happen. Asking somebody else to write you a testimonial might result in some vague platitudes about how it was a nice service experience. But if you write the testimonial, you can target the testimonial about the specific aspects that you want them to highlight. It's not a solo job. If you hand it over to them and say, here, do this, then you turn over all the power and all the creative direction. But if you work on it as a team, then you can create a much better product. And this is how you do it, is you use 6 questions. I'll give you better worded questions in a second, but first I want to just go through this outline with you. And this is what I use for all of my testimonial interviews. I ask them for an elevator pitch. We go down memory lane. I ask the reason why they chose to work with me. I ask about price versus quality. I ask an open-ended question about the experience, and then give them a hypothetical. What would you say? And these are the 6 questions that I use. This first question is just to get them talking. Give me your elevator pitch so that I make sure that I attribute this correct. You know, when you're starting an interview, you want it, the first few questions are a little uncomfortable. You know, you got to get into the rhythm of it. And so this just irons that out so that you can get them talking. And then we go down memory lane. How do you remember the two of us starting to do business together? This is when they recall the problems that they were facing, the reason they were looking for somebody. And question 3, why did you choose me? This is when they validate their choice. They remind themselves, well, I chose you because I really liked this and I really liked that. And this was such a good decision for me to make because. You see what we're doing there is we're laying the framework for why it was a good idea to do business with you. When you ask about price versus quality, nobody says price. As I said, I hope nobody on here is just price-based. And so what this does is it unpacks the non-monetary reasons why your services are valuable. Question 5 is open-ended. Tell me what it's like. And this is where they will just walk through everything that they remember about the experience that was important to them. But question 6, their answer to this question is often the first line of your testimonial. It takes 5 questions to warm them up, to get them to answer this one. They have to remember why they wanted to do business with you, what was important outside of price, how this whole process went. They remember all of this, and then you hit them with this question. If somebody called you and said, should they do business with me, what would you tell them? They're primed and ready, and they will just let it loose. This is when they're speaking directly to your future customer. So you ask these questions, you take a lot of notes, you can record the call if you want, and you edit it and chop it up and make a nice, tidy little paragraph. But you don't just do this once. You do this regularly. What I want to challenge you to do is to find a recurring place in your process where you can ask for testimonials all the time. If you plant all your seeds and you fill up your field, you'll have a great big harvest, but then you'll have a famine. What smart farmers do is they do something called sequential gardening, where they're always planting seeds and they're always harvesting. This is important with testimonials, but it's even more important with referrals. If you get business through referrals, getting them regularly is a lot better than getting a whole bunch once every couple of years. And so my challenge to you is to find that point in your process where you can regularly be asking for testimonials and referrals. And this is what's going to help you elevate your platform. Now, there's a lot of different ways to use the word platform online. And as the creative director of a digital marketing agency called Stellar Platforms, I use this word in a really specific way. For me, a platform is a collection of ideas and offerings delivered by an individual person. If you have something to say and something to sell, then you have a platform. And in my experience, platforms go through 4 levels. The first level of a platform, and the lowest, is a soapbox. Anybody can get up on a soapbox if they have something to say. But it's not until they have something to sell that it becomes a commercial enterprise. And the showroom is when your platform is focused around the things that you have on offer and how people can do business with you. But a showroom has a ceiling, and you can only fit so many people in a showroom. And so that's why I really like helping people make this transition from the showroom to the stage. At the stage, all you have to do is show up in front of an audience, share your wisdom and shine your light, and your systems do the selling for you. There's this 4th level of a platform called the stadium, and this is where your strategy becomes much more important. And I don't do a lot of work at the stadium level because they typically need a team of people like me. What I really like to do is to help multiple clients at the same time make this transition from the showroom to the stage. Instead of serving 150 people at a time, you can serve 1,500 people at a time. And so what I'd like you to do is to take a look at these 4 levels of platforms and type a word in the chat box and let me know where you are right now. Are you on a soapbox, selling your tasks by the hour? Are you in a showroom, selling by the project? Just type a word in the chat box and let me know which level of platform where you are right now. Lorianne says she's at the showroom. Eric's making the transition from soapbox to showroom. That's an exciting time. Leslie's on the showroom. Susan's on the stage. Your podcast, Susan, is a great platform. You're definitely on the stage. Susan is, the other Susan is planning the showroom. Again, this is one of my favorite times, like figuring out what is it that I'm going to sell and how am I going to promote this to people. That's really good. Now, what I've seen is that the best way to elevate your platform and progress through these 4 levels is through the cornerstones. Every platform has 4 cornerstones. There's these 2 cornerstones in the front, what you say and what you sell. And we could call these the external cornerstones because this is what people see when they look at your platform. But you also have 2 internal cornerstones that are just as important. And those are your strategy and your systems. We could call these cornerstones on the left the visionary cornerstones, and the cornerstones on the right, the practical cornerstones. All 4 of these are important. And if one of your cornerstones is weak, your platform will always be leaning in that direction. It's always going to be dominating your attention. There's always fires to put out there. There's always things you got to fix. So if you had to pick one of your cornerstones that's the weakest right now, go ahead and type that into the chat box and let me know which cornerstone, if you elevated it, would be most likely to elevate your platform. Jason says the selling cornerstone. Leslie says the strategy. Lots of systems. Both the Susans and the Lorianne need the systems. I'm a systems guy, and I have seen firsthand how when somebody upgrades their systems, their platform just goes through the roof. It's amazing. Well, what I want to do today is I want to share with you 4 case studies on how these cornerstones can elevate your platform. But before I share these case studies, I want to talk to you a little bit about why case studies are important. The Masterclass's subject today is referrals and testimonials and how to acquire those with questions. But I want to spend a moment talking about case studies because they're so powerful in describing the transformation that happens to your clients. And that's really what people are after. They're not after the how, the stuff that we do. They're after the why. They want the outcome that results from working with us. And the best way that we can communicate that is with storytelling. We're story-based creatures. Civilization started when monkeys started talking around the campfire and sharing information, passing it down through generations that would help future generations to survive. Storytelling is the foundation of what makes us human. We can relate to stories much better than statistics. You can share all sorts of statistics about results that you've gotten, but it's not until you frame it as a story that people really understand it. And the way that you do that is you clarify what happened before and what happened after. There's this transformation that happens in the middle that you are responsible for. A client had this situation at the beginning, and then you worked with them, and then they had this outcome. Case studies are extremely good at telling this story. And now I'm going to give you a formula for case studies. There's a problem that your customer faces, and then they aim to overcome it and achieve this solution. This is the basic case study formula. It's a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, people can go through this story without you. They can have a problem, aim to fix it, and solve it themselves. But there's this obstacle. This obstacle is the reason why you are essential. They can't do it themselves, or they tried to do it and they did it badly. But it's when you came in that you were able to help them achieve this solution. And this is the formula I use for all my case studies, with one addition, is I add in a testimonial. Because I see case studies as a vehicle for telling a story that is framed with a testimonial. And I'm going to share with you real quick what my case studies page looks like on my website. So when you go to stellarplatforms.com, I've only got 3 options up here on the top. You can shop, you can read my blog, and you can read my case studies. And all of my case studies, I didn't use the word problem. I decided to use situation here. And I have an overview with a situation, aim, and solution. It's a simple formula. It shows what happened before. And a lot of times I use screenshots of what it looked like before. And then I have an after so that people can see what happened after. And then the solution of how we got there. Now, I use these tabs because my stories are different lengths. And this overview tab, it lets me share logos that help people self-identify. Hey, I have that tech stack. Oh, Caelan's somebody that can help because I use these tools. And I find that what's most important to share on my case studies page is the testimonial and the logos. The case studies themselves, they're actually hidden in these tabs. But what people actually want to see when they scroll through is they want to see the testimonial with a face. So they see this is a real person doing it, and they want to see logos, either of the companies where the person works or the tools used in implementing the solution. So that's my case studies page, and I share it with you because I hope it's useful. And next, I'm going to share with you some really interesting statistics. Now that I've told you a story for your right brain, I'm going to engage your left brain and tell you some stats. Business-to-business buyers, when surveyed, 70% of them find that testimonials and case studies are the most influential types of content. People are more likely to change their opinion based on what a testimonial or a case study says. Neil Patel added a case study to an email campaign, and he was just wanting to get more subscribers. But what he found was this case study actually grew his sales numbers by 185%. And of the people who were delivered the case study campaign, as opposed to the regular email campaign, they were more likely to buy by 70%. And so I'm just going to plant this seed for you. Could you put case studies in your email onboarding sequence? They convert really well. Make a note. This might be a good thing for you to do in the future. Okay, so now I'm going to give you 4 case studies of how cornerstones can elevate a platform. And the first one is about strategy. This is Lisa, who I've talked about a lot today. She had this nationally syndicated radio program, but she was more than just a pretty voice. She wanted to have a video interview show. And she had built this great big network of book authors in the fields of neuroscience, consciousness, and spirituality, which is the focus of the Aware Show. And so she had all these authors that loved talking with her. And so we used a different strategy. We said, let's keep your radio program going, but let's also do video interviews and package them into a summit. This was back in 2015, before summits became the next overdone thing. And in 2015 and 2016, we launched 6 interview telesummits. They were all on video. And at the end of every interview, she would make a pitch for the guest's offer and use her affiliate link. And these were wildly successful. Each summit generated $250,000 in revenue. And we did that 6 times before she got her offer to go and host a video interview program on Gaia TV. And now she's got a video interview program, which is what she wanted. She just needed an upgrade to her strategy in order to achieve it. Next, I'll give you a case study about systems. I love systems. And when I have clients say, hey, I want to host a webinar, I say, great. I get out my templates and I say, here's everything we're going to build. And here's the swipe copy we're going to use. But with this one client, I said, you know, there's this point right here. After somebody's watched the webinar, they've gone to the sales page, they've made the purchase, and we send them this first welcome email. What if we made an offer for them to join an affiliate program so that they can share with their friends and family this webinar that you've got evergreen, so that people can register, and we bake in a viral system right when they're most convinced that they made the right decision in buying from you. And by setting up this system, it made it so that this New York Times bestselling author didn't have to be promoting his webinar indefinitely. The people who attend the webinar are promoting it for him while he can focus on doing his best work. So now I'll give you a case study about something to say. I was working with a Qigong teacher and acupuncturist out of Santa Cruz named Lee Holden. And he had packaged these audio interviews into a product he wanted to sell. And so we branded it the Guiding Healing Meditations, made a beautiful sales page in ClickFunnels. And so once that project was done, he said, you know, what do I say? I'm going to speak in Barcelona next week, but I don't want to go up on stage and say, hey, go buy my package. What else can I say here? And I said, well, one of the things that you're talking about is the healing powers of Qigong. It's simple movement meditation exercises. You do deep breathing. You can do it at your desk. I personally love Qigong. And that was the topic of his talk. And so I said, let's make a bridge. Instead of saying, hey, go buy my meditations, instead say, hey, go join my free 5-day Qigong mini course. You sign up here and you get 5 7-minute videos that are emailed to you once a day, and they'll guide you through a Qigong routine that you can do at your desk. It's just breathing and meditation. It'll make you feel great. And then at the end of that 5-day email sequence, we send promotional emails selling the guided healing meditations, so that what he has to say is something that's in alignment with his brand and his values. It's generous. It's not making a request. It's making an offer. And now let's talk about what you sell. I love the sales cornerstone because usually it's only a few little tweaks that's needed to really make this one powerful. And I was working with a Hall of Fame public speaker, and we had produced this 16-week video course called the What If Challenge. And we weren't getting a lot of traction with selling it in his newsletter or in his on his social media. And so we designed this brochure to be given to meeting planners while he was getting a standing ovation. He's a phenomenally popular public speaker. He plays guitar and does stand-up comedy and motivational speaking. The combination that this guy does, there's nobody like Mike Rayburn. And so what we found was people loved his keynote so much that when he walked off the stage, he was getting a standing ovation. He said, Caelan, at this point, they're eating out of my hand. I can ask them to do anything. And I said, well, that's when we make the pitch. That's when you take one of these brochures out of your gig bag, hand it to the meeting planner, and you say, you see this? You see how fired up everybody is? I want to keep this momentum going. So here's a 16-week program to make sure that we can do that. All it takes is little tweaks to these cornerstones to elevate your platform. And I have some more practical methods for doing that I'll tell you about in just a second. But first, I want to go over the agenda to review what we've talked about today. We discussed the 2 most profitable questions you can ask in your business. Will you refer me a new client? And will you give me a testimonial? How to overcome anxiety by deciding what to ask and practicing it in advance. The lifetime value of referral customers and how much better they are than regular customers. I've given you some secrets that make testimonial collection easy. And now I'm going to give you the script and interview questions in the testimonial interview workbook. I'm going to drop a link here into Zoom chat, and this will also be available with the replay that I'll send to you later. And this is a PDF that will guide you through a step-by-step process for collecting testimonials. It tells you what to do on day 1, what to do on day 2, and if you want to have targeted emails that tell you and remind you what to do on all 5 of these days, there's links throughout here for testimonials101.com. And if you go to that website, all you have to do is opt in at this form, and then you'll be sent 5 daily emails that'll take you through this free 5-day email course. And it'll help guide you through creating your own testimonial archive. All right. And so you'll find this workbook really useful in putting together your own testimonial campaign. But now I want to give you another bonus for staying here until the end. And I'm not advertising this bonus. I'm not giving it out to just anybody. This is only for people who stay to the end. I'm going to give you a one-on-one free 45-minute platform assessment where I take a look at your platform and give you advice on how to elevate your cornerstones. You can go to caelanhuntress.com/call to find out all the information about this call, what we're going to talk about, what we're going to cover, and schedule a time. Now, I am going to ask you to fill out a form before this call so that I can come to the conversation prepared with ideas. But this is not a sales call. This is me looking at your platform and asking you questions about things that have worked in the past for you and directions that you want to go. And so that I can give you strategic advice on how to elevate your cornerstones. Now, if at the end of this call, I think you'd be a good match for my one-on-one coaching, then I'll invite you to a separate call about that. I have a 3-month program that's one-on-one, just you and me, where we figure out how to minimize the time spent on your marketing so that you can maximize the revenue you earn from your offers. What this program does is it helps you develop repeatable systems that can deliver messaging that's in harmony with your own brand voice, that can convert leads into customers automatically. And what this does is it frees you up so that you can do your best work. These 4 cornerstones form the basis of my 3-month coaching program, and we dive deep on each one of these. And the way that we do this is with workbooks. I've got 3 workbooks for every cornerstone. And at the end of every coaching call, I'm going to give you homework. I'll give you one of these workbooks and tell you which ones you need to do this week and review the workbooks that you did since the previous call and give you feedback so that together we can fix a cornerstone that's broken and elevate the cornerstones that are weak so that we can raise your platform to a higher level. The way this starts is with a one-on-one platform assessment. And again, there's no charge for this call. It's just 45 minutes of you and me talking about how to elevate your platform. And Leslie, thank you so much. She just said in the chat that it was exceptionally helpful and that I give good strategic advice. And that's the sort of advice that I like to give to people. Whether or not you end up working with me as a coaching client, just having a conversation about your platform can make significant difference in your trajectory and your momentum. Because what I find is that a lot of people, especially solo entrepreneurs, it's easy for us to get stuck in a rut. And you know what Zig Ziglar said? A rut is just a grave with the ends kicked out. Oftentimes, all we need is an outside perspective from somebody else to point at a specific location in our platform and say, hey, this right here, this works. This is where you need to double down. And this over here, this is wasting your time. This is what you need to ignore. Sometimes it's just that validation from someone else that can help get us out of a rut, that can help us elevate a platform. So if you've got a platform and you want to move higher in the different levels, then you're somebody that I'd like to work with, especially if you're making this transition from the showroom to the stage. This is really my specialty. I've got a lot of great tactics and techniques for helping people move from the soapbox to the showroom. But what I find is that after you've been in the showroom for a little while and you have some data on what's actually selling, that's where we can really scale. So no matter what level of the platform that you're at, whether you're at a soapbox or a showroom, a stadium or a stage, if you're interested in having a 45-minute conversation, then click on the link. I'll go ahead and type it here in Skype chat and schedule a call, and we'll talk further. So I really appreciate you taking the time to sit through this masterclass with me. I've had a really great time. I'll send you the replay later so that you can watch it again if you like. And if you find this information valuable, on the replay page, there's also some sharing buttons so that you can share the opt-in page to opt into this masterclass with your network. And I'd really appreciate if you could give a share if you think that people in your network would find this useful. And thanks so much for taking the time to spend with me today. I really appreciate it.